First things first on the realist. Realism and nationalism.
Bonjour. After the year of 1850, new conservative leaders came to power in Europe. Napoleon III taught his contemporaries about authoritarian governments and how they worked. Louis Napoleon persevered in gaining support of the French people for 3 years until he used troops to seize control of the government in December. He restored male suffrage and asked the French people to elect him president in order to restructure the government, thus beginning the Second Empire. Early domestic policies involved Napoleon using resources of government to stimulate the national economy and encouraging industrial growth. The reconstruction of the city of Paris provided the city with modern appliances as well as a new feeling. Napoleon reached out to the working class by legalizing trade unions and granting them the right to strike. Napoleon was less accomplished at dealing with foreign policy, especially in Mexico. The Crimean War, which lasted from 1854 to 1856, prodded the question, who would be the chief beneficiaries of the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire? By the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire arrived in a fresh period of decline. War erupted between Russia and the Ottoman Empire in 1853. The Crimean War was poorly planned as well as poorly fought. It's remembered for the suicidal charge of the British Light Brigade at the Battle of Blavatsky. This war was costly to both sides, with the loss of more than 250,000 soldiers. Florence Nightingale played an important role on the British side by insisting on strict sanitary conditions, which prevented disease. The war demolished previous European power relationships. The countries seemed to withdraw from each other for the next few decades. This new international situation made it possible for the unification of Italy and Germany. Count Camillo di Cavour, a liberal-minded nobleman who favored constitutional power, was an important figure in Italy. Cavour pursued a policy of economic expansion, encouraging the building of roads, canals, and railroads, and fostering business enterprise. His desire to challenge Austria called for aid from the French. Napoleon III and Cavour made an agreement which led to benefits for both sides. Meanwhile, in southern Italy, Giuseppe Garibaldi had come to the fore as a new leader of Italian unification. Through his daring tactics, he won many important battles. Cavour and Garibaldi did not always agree on most things and often caused disputes. The Austro-Prussian War of 1866 allowed for the new Italian state to become the city of Prussia. In conclusion, Rome became the new capital of the new Italian city-state.
In comparison to other European countries of the time, Germany had a weakened sense of national pride due to the failure of their unification at the Frankfurt Assembly. Prussia and Austria were viewed as the only two states that were powerful enough to dominate German affairs. Austria had the most of the Germanic Confederation. However, Prussian power began to grow. Prussia formed the Zollverein in 1834. This eliminated tolls.
What?
I don't know.
While many European nations were moving to make domestic reforms, Austria maintained their old-fashioned way of ruling. The people attempted to revolt in 1849, but their revolution was short-lived, seeing as it was swiftly crushed by the Habsburgs. The only real lasting effect of the revolution was the Act of Emancipation. It outlawed serfdom and all other forms of compulsory labor services. However, the industrialization of key provinces, such as Vienna and Bohemia, would force the Austrian government to deal with new socio-economic problems, such as the development of an urban proletariat, labor unrest, and rapidly expanding industrial middle class. In 1851, Alexander von Bock responded to these new issues by abolishing all previous revolutionary constitutions. Local laws and privileges gave way to a unified system of administrative conduct, taxation, and law which would be carried out by German-speaking officials. In 1859, Emperor Francis Joseph tried to formulate an imperial parliament known as the Reichsrat in the hopes of adding representation for the many different nationalities efforts backfired due to the election of a German-speaking majority, which only worsened the subjection of ethnic minorities, especially the Hungarians. The Austrians were later given no other choice than to deal with the fiercely nationalistic Hungarians due to the military disaster of the Austro-Prussian War. Their solution was the Ausgleich, or Compromise of 1867, which created a dual monarchy under Francis Joseph, which still somehow managed to neglect other ethnic minorities.
Great Britain. Britain was not troubled by the revolutionary disturbances in 1848. The Reform Act of 1832 opened the door to political representation for the industrial middle class. Britain's economic growth was the reason for its stability. Labourers' wages increased by more than 25% between 1850 and 1870. The British sense of national pride was greatly reflected by Queen Victoria herself, who reigned from 1837 to 1901. The attitudes of the Brits were reflected by Queen Victoria's sense of duty and moral respectability, henceforth known as the Victorian Age. As far as the political aspects, this was an era of instability due to the upper class and their internal strife. The Reform Act of 1867 was passed by the Tories. It was an important step towards the democratisation of Britain. The number of voters increased from 1 to 2 million. As the party discipline intensified, the rivalry between the Liberals and the Conservatives became quite regular. The first Liberal administration of William Gladstone was responsible for a sense of reforms by eliminating abuses, improving life, and enabling people with talent to compete fairly. They sought to strengthen the nation and its institution.
While many European countries experienced an era of newfound national pride, hence the name nationalism, the U.S. was more divided than it had ever been. The major conflict of interest during this time was, you guessed it,
Slavery!
In 1850, this rift among the American people was taken to a whole new level when Andrew Jackson's Democratic Party split the North and South of the country. The Northern Republicans were in favor of freeing slaves to prevent the U.S. from becoming a slave system, which is basically a country that benefits solely from slave labor. In contrast, the Southern Democrats
Get her done.
argued that abolishing slavery would ruin the Southern economy, seeing as how they relied upon slaves to work Southern plantations. Tensions between the North and the South escalated when a few Southern states left the U.S. to form the Confederate States of America. In February 1861, the first fights erupted in April, which would later be called the Civil War. The Civil War was bloody and hard fought, but ultimately the underfunded Southern rebels were defeated by the North.
While all this chaos was going on in the US, our neighbors to the north, Canada, were going through their own internal turmoil. At this point, Canada was basically a group of colonies under British control. A small group decided that they wanted to be independent from their rule and that they were willing to fight for their freedom. This, destroying all those friendly Canadian stereotypes. Yup. Unfortunately, these rebellions were swiftly destroyed. However, seeing what was going on in America at this time, they decided to be better to just get out of there before things escalated any further. Thus, the Canadian nation was born. Realism in literature. The term realism was first employed in 1850 to describe a new painting style and soon literature. Literary realists wanted to deal with ordinary characters from real life rather than romantic heroes in unordinary settings. Many novels were written during this time, such as Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, A Novel Without a Hero, Vanity Fair by William Thackeray, and the greatest of all, Charles Dickens, with many of his novels throughout time. Art. Realism became dominant after 1850, where it was desired to depict the normal everyday life of people, whether they were peasants, workers, or prostitutes. It was an attempt at photographic realism and was an interest in natural environment. The French became leaders in realist painting. Gustave Courbet was the most famous artist of the time. In fact, the word realism was used to describe one of his paintings. Another famous realist was Jean-Francois Millet. His focus was primarily on scenes from rural life, especially laboring peasants. Some of his work still contained an element of realism. However, he was criticized for his crude subject matter and unorthodox technique. Music! The twilight of Romanticism. New methods of using music to express literary or pictorial ideas was introduced during this time by a new group of musicians called the New German School. A Hungarian-born composer named Franz Liszt best exemplifies the achievements of the New German School. He's been credited with introducing the concept of modern piano recitals, and also invented the term symphonic poem to refer to his works. Franz's son-in-law was Richard Wagner. He was a composer, propagandist, and writer, and built on the advances made by Liszt and the New German School. His music was described as a monumental development in classical music. Wagner also transformed opera into music drama through his Gesangschinsk work. This is where music, acting, dance, poetry, and scenic design are combined into a harmonious whole. He also used a device called leitmotif, where the human voice combined with the line of the orchestra instead of rising above it.